All right, let's get started to, I guess some people need some introduction about USACO. Sorry about that. I need to admit people in. So agenda-wise, let's first introduce the class, then also introduce myself. I guess that kind of be a short part. And then, like I said, the agenda, the third one, we're going to go through the topics basically based upon the syllabus of the class, right? Regarding USACO, I assume this is familiar to people joined today's sessions. USACO is a very it's a very specific subject that for people who are interested in computer science. So there are 4 levels behind USACO. Everyone start with the bronze. Once you promote it, you get to silver, and then gold, and then platinum. Majority of my students are working on bronze level and silver level. If you think of the bell curve, most people are there. And also some of my students work on gold. So the primary goal, one is if you're interested in computer science, in programming, I mean, why don't continue and using USACO as a vehicle to spend your effort. 2, for your later application, college application, specific for computer science, if we can promote it into silver, and best case we are promoted into gold, that's the best. I mean, that's the point gonna attract people on your resume. So with that being said, in order to prepare USACOs, definitely everyone can spend the time offline, data structure and algorithm, and think about there's so many questions. That's one strategy. The reason here I offer the class is trying to making that process more efficient. Specifically, when we start with a specific level, we want to be very solid with a given data structure and algorithm. That's just a very beginning step. The second step is how to justify using the data structure and algorithm for a given question. Still again, that's a beginning step. And moving on is how will we interpret a very massive and messy USACO description questions down to a very component level questions. Component level questions, I'm referring to something like LeetCode, that kind of level, very specific requirement, and you go ahead and justify data structure and algorithm for resolving it. So all combined together, I think it would be a good idea to have a class to deliver to have people trained at least on methodology level and also on coding level to prepare the USACO. So that's why for today, I want to focus on for bronze, USACO bronze level. Though I have a silver level and a gold level, I do not want to combine everything together. So, but if you are today coming in for silver or coming for gold, you are welcome to contact me. I attach my WeChat barcode over here. We can talk offline. I might also have silver demo, maybe later this month. All right. So with that being said, I think that's a brief about the USACO. I think that's a very good area for us to demonstrate or differentiate, right? So second part, let me quickly introduce myself. Who am I? Why I'm doing this? I'm a software developer, and that's my engineering daytime job, and also my spare time. I would say all the rest time, weekend and nighttime are dedicated to STEM training. And this year I focused a lot on USACO. So I offer the training classes on all 4 levels, mostly bronze, silver, and gold. Platinum is different world. It really depends on your bandwidth. All right. So I'm doing this for about 5 years. Myself is not a organization, it's just individual, but kind of professional level into this area. That's why I do not use a lot of marketing. I don't have a marketing team, so that's why offering the demo is kind of marketing, and meanwhile can help people at least to understand the structure behind the exam and also have some takeaway. And you're going to see it after this, right? So introduction that it is for the class and also for myself. So let's get on to the main chunk about the class. I'm going to come through the syllabus piece by piece, but prior to that, I do want to help people understand if you're interested in enrollment. So this is a schedule for Bronze. I'm gonna offer this class every Saturday, starting from 14th, and total gonna be 30 hours. So briefly the goal, I do want to emphasize the goal here is data structure algorithm. Like I said, this is just your first step. How to justify and how to factor that into your later coding. This is also a decent amount of chunk we need to work on, right? And also the third one, which is the second one, strong encoding skill and solving approach. Solving approach is a layer between where you can say, hey, I can code it out versus I can read the USACO questions, how are you gonna bridge it? Which means how would you interpret the questions down to component level? So those also area we want students to be solid with. All right. And as to tuition, and also there's early bird, the numbers here, it's descriptive. And also I think I introduced myself. And this is my email address. This is my barcode. And you guys are welcome. We can talk offline if you have any other question. Okay, so we burned about 8 minutes. I think it's fair. Let's get to today's topic. I mean, this is a topic I really want to have. Let's talk about based upon the 15 session syllabus, right? So let's actually have a little dive in for each session and what the session gonna deliver. And for any data structure algorithm or any solving approach, what is underneath, what is component, what are components underneath it? So hopefully after this, though you will not decide to enroll, you want to have an idea about the footprint behind the Bronze and how to be excellent into Bronze. I didn't mention that for USACO exam context in general, Bronze, Silver, Gold, it was difficult last year. I believe you're gonna have a similar experience if you were taking any context last year. The first session is normal, I would see that. But the following sessions are kind of crazy a little bit. So which is also factored in this year's syllabus. I know some of you may also take my session last year. So this is every year, my material will adjust as accordingly. And so basically expand as accordingly. All right, with that being said, let's get to our syllabus. I see people are joining now, just FYI. We are into the class syllabus. We're gonna expand each session, trying to understand what's behind it. And if you missed, we also talk about the class introduction myself and also the class structure. So go ahead and scan the barcode in case you want to enroll in the class because we have early bird animation. All right. So with that being said, I think I better to paste my barcode from time to time for people. All right, let's get started. So let's start with the session one. Session one, programming basics, math, and beta operations. So what I mean by that, certain amount of USACO Bronze questions are kind of warm up. My word warm up is just iteration types of problem. And also this iteration could also combine with simulation. So let me put the keywords. So for example, let me give you two questions. If you guys offline want to give it a shot, take a look at these two questions. 2020 February Bronze and 2016 February Bronze. So like I said, certain questions is basically you do iteration based on description. The description from the questions, you just have to dig on very superficial level, and then you know what, simulate. How would you simulate? Most of the time, you're gonna using the loop, right? For loop, while loop, given the situation. So this is a very basic level under USACO Bronze. So I would say this is really related to programming basics. As long as you know how to iterate well, and then you associate to the questions accordingly, correctly, so you can get it. However, for simulation, this is a big topic. If I don't know today, any people for server for Gold, this simulation is general. It's a very general approach for
I
problem
think I
solving.
can leave it.
Yeah.
This simulation is a general approach, and in order to implement a simulation, iteration is one way, but there's also other assistance you can have from data structure to help you to simulate in order to have a good time complexity. But for session one, this is just getting to basics, and also there's some math problem for USACO Bronze. So a questions, let me see if I can have an example for you guys. For example, this. So what I mean by math is, think about what is math about, right? So greater common divisor, that's one type of math, right? But there's a certain math problem is about to try to find define the pattern. Define the pattern between, for example, sequence, so-called sequence and the patterns. And you do understand for USACO Bronze and the server, it may share the exactly same questions, but for instead, it asking questions with a different, scale of use cases. So this type of problem in Bronze may be just a starting step for a later, even more difficult questions. But still, again, I also want to include in the math, at least what, scope of math topics could show up in the USACO Bronze. I do want to also cover beside the very basic programming topic as well altogether. Bit operation. So very rarely we will see bit operation standalone questions in USACO on all 4 levels, but there is. I have example, but given the time, I don't want to touch here. But we should have basic sense about how the number be represented, because that matters. That matters is when later we do time complexities. So you really want to see the scale of the input variable, so you can decide, hey, would that n log n gonna be the approach to resolving it, or is that gonna be n squared gonna resolve it? So anyway, session one, I kind of like a basics, right? And I also offer you the use cases to really show there is a connection, and that's why we do it. Okay, so session 2, session 3, greedy algorithm. Greedy algorithm, this topic gonna become very intensive when you promote it into server or even Gold, but still there's a questions at Bronze level. So for greedy algorithm, we need one of the key questions gonna ask yourself is, in order to use any greedy algorithm, we didn't talk any greedy algorithm yet, but in order you want to use greedy algorithm, you need to justify this is greedy questions. So in larger pictures, greedy versus dynamic programming, those are two very interesting comparison. So get back to greedy algorithm business versus dynamic programming. By the way, dynamic programming, we will not include for Bronze, which is almost not gonna happen for Bronze level. For greedy algorithm, we need to understand a task we can divide into small tasks. For example, we have a task I versus task I plus by 1. If this is a greedy questions, then you have to justify that in order to finish all the tasks, the optimal way we do task I will not affect the optimum solution we do for task I plus by 1. So there's no dependency between the small tasks. If we can justify that, well, we can use greedy algorithm to resolving it. I mean, by nature, but greedy algorithm, that is always trying to find the localized best solution. And then we add it up. So then we can have a global best solution. That's behind greedy algorithm. So that would be a very interesting topic to expand and to basically to know how to justify this is greedy questions and then and get down to find the greedy algorithm to resolving it. So for example, 2020, January, bronze, the third problem risk. So this is a very interesting question. I do want you to give a try. So I would say this question is almost promoted into server level if you can pass all the use cases. So normally, in general, I mean, the problem 1, 2, 3, you have 3 problems in your session. Mostly the third one is difficult one. The first one, second one is like the level, it kind of leveling up to problem 3. So anyway, so this is a use case behind the greedy algorithm in the bronze. So indeed, there's a connection. So we want to include it. All right. And I believe you notice for 13 session or sessions, I put kind of coding skills here. For example, greedy algorithm and coding skill. And in the following, I believe you also see that. I want to explain a little bit. So this coding skill, what I mean by that is what we just mentioned as 2 components, 2 areas. Number 1 is how could we interpret the USACO question down to component level. So the component level is a level you had to justify data structure and algorithm to resolving it. So that's a big picture, right? And the lower level, that is mostly for bronze. Given the use cases, if you look at the 10 use cases, it's like a flat line. For some, I'm not saying all the use cases, but most use cases, it's not like a server. It's not like a server. Well, starting 5 use cases having fun, right? And then the following use cases exponentially going up, right? So sometimes it's really hard to pass all. But still again for bronze, I do want my students to have a basic sense to basically build up the curve that is starting with brute force algorithm. What I meant by brute force algorithm is just literally translate the question description or requirement and just reflect that in your code. And then number 2, identify the area which is redundant or which is repeated in terms of certain calculation repeats. And with that, try to optimize your code in terms of time. In order to optimize the code, you need to know or you need to get the help from certain data structure or algorithm. So this kind of curve, I'm building that for all levels, basically. I emphasize from a server class in the same way we emphasize for the bronze. We should get started from that point, right? So that's what I meant by coding skill. And also in our session, we will not have any time for students just coding a session. So because our session time is very, look at the stuff I'm trying to put in here, it's 30 hours, I think is it's still a little shy to cover everything. So mostly coding or practicing is offline. And we will have a coding pad, which is Google Doc for each student. So code review and code iteration happen there. So that's what I meant by this end coding skills. So session 4, data structure. Talking about the data structure in general, so we need to understand the reason we need data structure is trying to help us for a given algorithm. For a given algorithm you want to deliver, for example, simulation as a solving approach, you may think, hey, what kind of data structure going to help us to deliver this at a better time? So that's why in general sense for our class to deliver data structure, I automatically mute people, but if you have questions, just go ahead, turn on the mic and ask me. In general, for data structure, I'm not a big fan. Just go through APIs, how to get, how to change, how to delete, how to remove, stuff like that. That's not supposed into our logic of the session, but those will be covered because otherwise you don't know how to deliver. More I want to cover that is understand how it works behind. For example, questions why the array is a fixed size, why the array list is not fixed size, just as example, right? What is the mechanism behind the array list? It can handle the changing size request. So this is important to know, but also can help you understand when you actually code. So you remember the rules, okay? As to time complexities in session 4, we get on time complexity in understand what is time complexity, why that matters, right? And the second is how to calculate the time complexity and also space complexity as well. I didn't put in there. I didn't mention, but I need to add in here is for this session, for the class, for lecture part. So this 30 hours kind of includes lecture part and a coding part. I just explained what is coding part, justify data structure algorithm, and how to interpret the question down to component level. There's no restriction for your language choice, Python, Java, C++. You can follow the lecture session really well. There's no restriction on your language. And also in the coding session as well, because coding session we want to train the students as how to boil down the problem. So student language is still not a big concern, except you're offline when you deliver the coding questions. So that matters. So you're okay to use C++, Java, or Python. Those three are all okay. I can review. But if you are kind of in, trying to make a choice kind of level, I would recommend you maybe go with Java, would be good, and also C++ as well. So because when you promote into server level or even higher level, Python might not be efficient in terms of passing all the use cases. So it's a good in the bronze. What I meant is if you're in a making choice level, Java, C++ will be good. All right, so data structure it is. Section 5, slow and fast pointer and pre-processing. Pre-processing is the topic belong to bronze. Some people may think, okay, is that belong to server? No, it's also belong to the bronze. I can give you one question. For example, 2016 bronze problem 3, load balancing. Let me paste down here in case people want to give it a try. So this pre-processing, I would say a very small component behind it is by slow and fast pointers. So slow and fast pointers is a session or is a topic. Try to, build up the curve as when you declare a variable, you have to clearly define its physical meaning. So slow and fast pointer is one of best practices for practicing that purpose. And from slow and fast pointers, you can have pre-processing, for example, prefix sum, 1D or 2D. I literally have 2 use cases I can offer you here. And also, there's a sliding window. So sliding window for bronze, if that show up, mostly is a fixed sized sliding window. So I would say session 5 with the slow and fast pointers would be very good topic to kind of, this is more like a build up your coding skill part for slow and fast pointers. Not necessarily you will expect a use case just for slow and fast pointers for USACO Bronze. Okay, So I can continue talking like that, but in our real session, it's supposed to be interactive. But today, I think this is just trying to understand each other. I will continue, so it's still gonna on my end. So go ahead and raise questions if you have any, all right? So next, recursion, binary search. Let's talk a little bit about recursion. So why I want to include recursion here. Recursion, we will get to there as to what exactly it is, but in general, recursion is you boil down the problem to a smaller one, and that's what we call the base case. So then you can recursively going up and return the answer. For USACO Bronze, there's a very few use cases. The question just checking you on recursion. I can find example here. Let me look at my library. So I didn't attach here. All right, never mind. So let me get to here. I believe I do have one. Give me 1 second. There you go, here. This is a 2012. So 2012 Bronze problem 3 move. This is, I would say, this is literally the math plus recursion problem. But if you scan recent years, this type of problem doesn't show up anymore because it's so difficult. So, but still recursion is important. We need to cover is because this recursive, thinking or methodology, we're gonna need it when we do DFS topic, depth first search. So I will expand DFS depth first search in a graph chapters, but in terms of implementation, recursion is definitely we need to master with, even though, like I already said, for recursion standalone problem, you can expand, it will not happen in recent years. So, but still very important for you to understand what is recursion and how, at least on code structure, how to deliver. Binary search. Binary search, mostly binary search questions, fewer in Bronze, but most in server. But still, we need to know what is binary search, how to deliver that. One of the big interest I want to deliver binary search is because, like I mentioned, we also cover the solving approach. Binary search is one use case or instance of a general solving approach called starting big. For certain level problems, it would be very hard to start a point. For example, you declare a variable and attach with the restriction from questions, you traverse it, and then you land on a question, a return, right? That's one type. But for certain level questions, you have to start with a range of data or number, right, as candidates. And then you apply the restriction. You narrow down the candidates into several, and then you determine which one it is, and you return. So this binary search is exactly use case. So we want to cover binary search is just one, and two, we also want to review the one of solving approaches, starting big. So if you want to have idea in the question level, I can offer you this use case. Offline, you can take a look. So this one, what do I put is here? There you go, here it is. So 2019, problem 3, measuring traffic. So this is a typical starting big approach, right? Okay. And apparently you see that I already have a library, basically categorize the topic versus the questions. So I can have a sense that in terms of when I deliver my lecture, so we know the emphasis. So I just want to let you know the way I organize our sessions is based upon the connection with the USACO questions and based upon the category. So then we can understand why we need to learn this solving approach and not mention data structuring algorithm. Okay, continue. Sorting algorithm. and a coding skill. So sorting algorithm, this is a very, you know, basic module in your context. So, but there are two levels of questions you need to be careful. So the first one is just sort it out. You need to know how to sort in given data structure, or you need to know how to sort in your customized objects, for example. So let me type in here. So this is, I would say, just for coding skill, mostly. You need to understand how to do it. But like I mentioned in my other classes, that just call the API would be your best strategy for sorting algorithm. But in order to call the API to sort it out, you need to understand how to making sure your object is comparable, right? So I talk too much, a little detail, but I just want to have people understand. So need to know how to sort. It is very important, and also based on what is your objects. And the second level is for certain useful questions, it also checking you on other sorting algorithm. We all know there is a bunch of several we know. For example, selection sort, right? Insertion sort, bubble sort, right? And with that being said, given the time, I don't attach a question for certain one, but there is use cases behind it. For example, if you do not know what is the insertion sort is about, it's difficult for you to deliver the approach for the questions. So understand how it works, understand the time and space complexity will be the key. And also you need to understand for certain use cases why you want to pick insertion. For example, all your data is almost sorted. And then what will be the best strategy when you have a more data flow in, what algorithm you want to use, just for example, right? That's a second level. I didn't include, but there is a third level, is time versus space topic, which is gonna bring you the bucket sort. For certain questions, you want to create a, you basically want to sacrifice the space for the time. So bucket sort is one instance of that strategy. And most of the time for bucket sort, you can actually get a hint from the questions. Normally it said, you know, the distribution is just from 0 to 100, whatever, right? You can take the hint that the distribution is rather limited. So then that kind of reminds you to think, hey, you know what, why don't I just, you know, record each one of this 100 and do the logic as behind? So this is 3 are behind sorting algorithms. I tried the best to list as in terms of breadth, but still there's certain areas I cannot just cram in for this demo. So the idea for this demo is you understand the sketch of behind USACO Bronze. And the second is hopefully you can have a taste about my delivery. And please also imagine we're gonna have interaction as well. So, but today it's just on my end. So data structure 2, queue, stack, and priority queue. Like I said, in general, data structure, we will understand why queue versus stack and what are the instances behind it. So for example, queue is a first in, first out, right? Versus stack is first in, last out. And this is just very superficial. The second level, you need to understand, well, how to implement it. So for example, question I'm gonna asking you, hey, why the queue is implemented by linked list? And in order to understand the linked list, we're gonna dive into understand what is list node and how to chain up. And in order to understand the efficiency, we're also gonna understand what is single A versus double A linked list. Because those are important for later to understand why the time complexity for add, for, you know, remove in the queue and in the stack. And specifically for the stack, there's a certain useful questions, and it's not using stack data structure, but for instead using stack, kind of first in last out, this kind of thinking thread to resolve the problem. Priority queue, this one is optional. I mean, for bronze, for this ones, we can just, it's good to have, but we gotta focus on queue and stack, all right? All right, so far, any question? I think I just keep talking. I believe there's some certain questions. Feel free to throw in the chat, all right? Regarding graph search, graph transversal, and coding skills, we explain what is coding skill behind. In general, for graph topic, is a very heavy in silver, but not that heavy in bronze. But we could not say bronze. We do not have bronze. Sorry, we do not have a graph problem in bronze. There is. So, generally for graph problems, we have a two different category. One is directed, one is undirected. By the way, if certain question or topic are kind of, you think it's in middle of nowhere, don't worry. I just try to cover the structure for you to understand the scope. So in our session, we're gonna get there. Directed versus undirected. Actually for bronze, they including both. So under these two categories, I would say the importance of bronze, getting to bronze. So we can start with a very basic behind the graph. For example, how to represent the graph. What kind of data structure to represent a graph and associated with the operation you want to put on the graph. For example, adjacent list, adjacent matrix, and what's your choice in terms of what? So this is represent the graph. And next is about what it just mentioned, graph transversal. So this is important, actually. This is a get down to DFS business or BFS business. But for bronze, for BFS, it's good to have, really based on our bandwidth, I would include or not include, but we will cover definitely the concepts, the theory part definitely as well. But for DFS, it's really, we need to master for bronze level questions. And for DFS, definitely you need to understand depth first search. It's a searching algorithm. In nothing we can associate it then automatically, hey, DFS and recursion. Recursion is just one implementation behind DFS. So in our session, that's why in early chapter, we learn recursion because we want to deliver DFS implementation. So understand there's an iteration and also iteration, two different ways to implement the DFS. And this DFS is to help for transversal for the graph. For USACO Bronze, I would say, in general, graph is difficult because graph can have cycle, right? Graph can have this, separated group. So they're gonna make question interesting, but also challenging. In terms of a bronze, it's less likely to dive into very deep. For example, determine if the graph have cycle. That's kind of silver stuff. But still again, these basics are important. So let me offer you a use case for you to understand what is a graph problem looks like in USACO Bronze. For example, 2019 Bronze problem 2, the grade revegetation. So this is a typical graph representation problem. Or let me give you another one. This one is associated to DFS transversal, which is (2019) US Open, the milk factory. Okay, so that's a reason I used 2 sessions to cover this topic because it's important. All right, continue. Data structure 2, 3. So this one gonna cover set and map, harsh set, harsh map. So those are, I would say, frequently used in USACO Bronze. Definitely you need to understand how it works behind set, behind map. So we're gonna use in the same approach as we resolving the other 2 data structure sessions. So basically understand how to implement it. And even first, you need to understand what is set. Just for example, My principle in general is I do want to start with a very small bits or very basic bits, and then we're going to build the curve from there. Instead of we throw the useful questions and tomorrow say, hey, what's your coding? I'm not really a big fan of that way. So for example, for set, you need to understand a set, just for example, what is set? So set has certain, features. For example, an order, right? It's different than the array or array list. When you put stuff in, you know where to find it. So set is an order. And also set have a zero tolerance for duplication or duplication free, right? Or deduplication, correct? And what about the third one? The third one is think about the use case. So why you want to use set or map? So it has an average O of 1 for search the key, in terms of map for searching the key value pair. So that is the three features about the set and map in general. And in terms of implementation, it's trying to help you understand why in average is O of 1 instead of linear time if you have a lot of collision. And starting from here, we need to know how the hash code is being implemented, how the equals methods is being overriding implemented. Just for example, because those are important when you have when you try to set up a hash map, a hash set on custom objects instead of integer or already well existing data structure that already well implement hash code equals. So those the protocols behind our areas are also we need to cover so you can be solid in later coding. All right. So that's that. Let me try to find any use cases for you to have a sense about the set and map. I believe I do have, for example, 2020 for this one. So this one is typically using hash set and hash map, but not just like that. So certain questions also you need a use hash set hash map and plus, for example, perfect sum. And this question is just as example. So it's like a build up something you can get the component from this and that and build up together. Okay, so that's a data structure 3. Session 15, so-called final review and solving approach review. I put it here just as a stakeholder. So in the middle or in the progression or sessions, I do want to have a kind of review at that point frequently. For example, the solving approach, there are, downgrade solving approach, there's a starting big, and there's a more. So it would be necessary, definitely we will not leave at the last session to have a review. I just literally have a stakeholder that we're gonna have a review at the certain points frequently in middle of our sessions. Okay, so I think we use about 40 minutes to go over, I mean, in a very high level, of course, about the 15 sessions. And hopefully we can have an idea about the footprint regarding at least the component level, what's behind. So with that being said, I think that's about it. And any questions? So USACO Bronze, I have it every year, same as the silver. And last year I have 2 sessions, which is I deliver USACO Bronze twice. So let's using data to see how we are doing. For example, for the second session, I believe I got enrolled 6 students, or maybe 6.5, because one student just take a certain part of it. And for my trackable 5 students, I have 2 students passing USACO Bronze full points and passing all the use cases. I have the third students, which is passing for the second time, second session, not second year, and also passed it. I forget the points, but kind of missing the third question, several use cases. So trackable is about 3 out of 5. For that two students, I didn't track for the later sessions. I can do that, but I want to see that. Several things we can discuss. One is I never believe a student just take any session or training from the market and say, hey, I can do it. So this session or lecture, it's just a way to help you to make it. Well, in order to help you, so a well-organized lecture to help you understand data structure and algorithm, and also help you to understand how to interpret useful questions, and also to train you to justify the data structure and algorithm. So those theories can be time-efficient way to get you into the business. And not to mention, we also have a coding skill sessions to build up your coding as well. So that's my way to deliver a STEM level class, because I also have an AMC and also FE+MA for physics. So same principle applies to USACO. So we start from basics. We never just shoot for fasting, for example, get to USACO in about 20 hours. It's just a lie, literally. So we start from basic and we build up the curve. And so I'm really looking forward for this year. We can also do the same way as the last year, and we're making progress. So with that being said, I think that's it about the demo. I want to deliver the content, the structure, and also and for your end to understand how class is delivered. All right. So let's see if we have any other question. And jump back to the class schedule because I see some people join late. So this is a class schedule. We're gonna have a class starting from 15, which, sorry, 14, because for PT time. From August 14, we're gonna start our session every Saturday from 7 p.m. And also we're going to deliver by Zoom. Total going to be 30 hours for 15 sessions, right? So while we approach to the end, so this is also nearby to the first sessions. And I believe there's a gap. During the gap, you can continue work on it. So to take the first session for USACO Bronze, right? I believe there's some frequent question as, am I ready to take USACO Bronze? So what is the criteria or what is prerequisites? So a very straightforward way to deliver that is if you have a basics of programming, any languages, Python, Java, or C++, I would say is good chance to get into this context for USACO series, because this is a long-term commitment. In terms of not for you to secure or promote into server, but in terms of the levels, promote to bronze maybe take a year, and promote from server into go that maybe take another year. So this is a long-term commitment. However, for USACO Bronze, the threshold is not very high. As you can see, for certain questions, it's starting from very basic for loop, while loop to get started. But later for certain chapters or topics, you need a definitely certain domain knowledge to know before you can get continued. So that's my interpretation, and also based upon how class enrolled from previous years. So it's good for you to get into it. And if you have an interest in programming, I mean, that's gonna be the best. So just go ahead and enroll. So it will be the time point, especially at now, given the exam is going to be December, right? So that's that. And for any students who are interested with a server, right now I'm also running server class. So let me know. there's different sets of requirements and also, stuff as what we discussed today. Just also welcome to approach me so we can also have a discuss over that. And for USACO code, this is based on your pool, based on very, very, very small class that offer USACO code as well, because that's a different level commitment. So just let me know if you're interested. We can also talk offline. And this is my USACO barcode. What am I talking? This is my WeChat barcode. And yeah, and if you want to get enrolled, scan that, let me know. Or if you have general questions, also, let me know. And with that, I think that's good. Let me know any questions. I do want to hear some questions and any suggestion also, if you have. If not, I'm going to return the 8 minutes back. And if you decided, yeah. Okay. Right, let me pause a little bit, see any questions. All right, so I would say that if no question, that's about it. So I appreciate everyone's time. And I believe this is just 3 weeks away before class gets started. So yeah, so let me know if you need make a decision, but also want to have a discussion to make a decision, you're also welcome to ping me. All right, email or WeChat, whichever way, so we can discuss as well for your status, definitely. Okay, folks. So if no questions, that's about it. And I look forward to this year's USACO Bronze. This is a journey. Okay, thank you.